I think what's so fascinating when we were looking at your journey and story is that you're this geek nerd. You know, you were studying, was it biology and chemistry? Is that right?
Like, I lived a completely different life than I'm living now. I was raised in a time where this as a career didn't really exist. And so I've always been fascinated with science, and it also just came very easy for me. So yeah, I got a double major in biology and chemistry, and I wanted to be a doctor, so I also did embryonic stem cell research.
So not only do you have more followers than us, you're also a lot smarter than
us.
No.
You're just
I didn't even try.
And you have crazier stories than us.
Our parents would be so proud of you. You at least tried to be a doctor. Our Indian parents would be so upset with us. They're like, you guys didn't even try.
Listen, I could know a lot of facts about different things, but I don't know how to navigate without a GPS. I'm not street smart at all. Yeah. You guys probably have that over me too.
That's amazing though. So you were studying even to become a doctor. Was that like your dream growing up? Or how did that dream come about? Like, where did that come from?
I think I just looked at my report card one day and saw all A's in all science classes. I'm like, oh, great. Let me look up occupations and how much they get paid. Oh, I could be balling as a doctor, doing something that comes easy for me and something that I really genuinely am passionate about. I remember like overshadowing a foot surgeon. He did an 8-hour foot surgery and I was just staring at it, fascinated. I loved all that stuff. But yeah, and then my family moved to LA, and that's where I met a couple Viners. And then they said, hey, you want to come out and Vine with us? That's weird. It's just cat videos, but okay. And then I shot my first Vine and it went viral. And then they gave me this whole speech. They're like, hey, you have a fan base now. You owe it to your followers to come out with more content. We're Vining tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp. Come with 3 ideas. And then I just really just genuinely liked hanging out with them as friends. So yeah, now here we are.
Wow. What a story. I mean, first off, I also was on the path of thinking that I was going to go to grad school. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I thought that
lawyer.
was
Very
that
cool.
was my idea. I knew nothing about like medicine, science. Those were always the classes I did the worst in. But you know what's interesting is that a lot of smart kids kind of get bullied, right? Like when you're doing well in school, there's almost that thinking that you can't be cool and also do well in school.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you're a straight A student. You know, you're double major, like on track for having this very successful professional career, totally switched gears with your life and then found even more success. I mean, I doubt there's even a lot of doctors that are like doing as well as you are.
Oh, you're sweet.
That's super inspiring.
Growing up with my sister in Oregon, we had those old school cameras, like the little tape recorders.
Yeah.
And we would create skits on our own. And then during Thanksgiving, we would plug it into the TV and show our whole family. Like, look what we made. We'd remake music videos. So I've always been really into creating content ever since a kid. And I didn't even know I could do it as a profession. So yeah, I've always been thoroughly obsessed with that. And I've always been goofy. I was always the weird kid, just trying to make people laugh. I was an extreme late bloomer. I was my height now. I'm 5'10". 90 pounds, braces, this weird kid that would army crawl to class and like eat lunch in the trees, kind of got bullied a little bit, and here I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was always like, I mean, there were times when the popular kids would come around and they'd be like, oh, Hannah, come over here, make us laugh. And then you'd make them laugh and then they'd walk away. And so I've always had that in me.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you think of the straight A kid, you don't really imagine that's also like funny, making you laugh.
Yeah.
I love how you're all these things. I was like the A- kid. I would
A-? That's still good. That's still an A.
Not according to my parents, you know. Yeah, that was very, very disappointing. And they reminded me of my cousins who got straight A's or A+ all the time, and they were in honor classes and stuff like that. But I was more so like shy, felt uncomfortable, out of place in high school. Like I couldn't wait for high school to be over. I used to get made fun of for the way my fade was. Like my fade wasn't right.
It's always something.
And the shoes. Like I would never have like cool shoes. So I think I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. But
we could have been buddies.
I know. Well, I feel like you would have welcomed me because like I wasn't welcome to any other circle in high school. But yeah, going back to the content aspect, like I was just talking to Jay about this, that one of the things I love about how you create is that you're so authentic. I mean, we feel it right now, obviously sitting with you as well.
Oh, thank you.
But I can't help but feel like, sometimes you even will show like bad camera angles of yourself, or you'll purposely try to look not your best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people on social media, I feel like, would be scared of that.
Horrified,
right? They won't need to filter everything, even stories that get put out. And, they're always worried about not looking their best angle. So how do you overcome that and not worry about people's judgment? And how has being authentic help you get to where you are today?
Authenticity is everything. And I think that's the reason why you both are so successful too, because it shows all of that. It was just something that clicked in me one day where I just woke up and I'm like, it's so meaningless, like how you really look. And I started doing that, and I had a lot of young girls starting to follow me and kind of relate. And so I really just do it for the kids to show like, hey, it's okay to not look your best all the time. Instagram or every platform has too much of that.
Yeah.
But I think it was just something that clicked in me one day. And and same thing with comments. I have a lot of friends that struggle with, like maybe they'll fall into really dark places after they get a lot of negative comments. I don't know. Something just clicked in me one day. Just delete it, kind of turn your phone off and focus on things that make you happy.
Wow.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's hard.
It's easier said than done, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it is. And I feel like everyone remembers their first bad comment or their, whatever it may be. But I mean, you said you'd been used to dealing with bullying from when you were younger, and it's almost like mean comments are just today's version of bullying.
Yeah.
Right? In the school, when someone would make fun of what you're wearing or your shoes or your hair or, your fade or whatever it was.
I'm so hurt by that, Jay. It's too soon.
Now you have a clean fade, so,
Yeah, your fade's great.
But
the childhood trauma, that's why. I get a haircut twice a week now.
Daz has a resident barber in his house that just comes out.
He lives with you.
He's in the car, actually. In case he shows up in the middle of this podcast, don't worry about it. Just ignore him.
We take a 5-minute break. He comes up.
Yeah. But you've dealt with bullying before, and what was your approach to bullying at the time? Because I think a lot of people may look at you now and be like, well, Hannah's popular, she's confident, she's got great friends. But we're hearing that wasn't where you started.
Yeah. The worst thing I probably got bullied for, and I don't think I've ever talked about it publicly, but I have something called trichotillomania, where it's anxiety-induced, and I actually rip my hair out. So throughout classes, I learned the best when my hands are moving as well, so I wouldn't take any notes. I would just be kind of like pulling my hair. And I got made fun of that a lot. Oh, Hannah has this mental issue. Wow. And so, that was tough. Or like, oh, guys don't like her. And I think where the flip happened was I felt like, sorry to get sad, but I felt so much sorrow to the point where I'm like, I never want to feel that again. And my parents also instilled in me, treat people how you want to be treated. Yeah, I think I just reached that low. And so I never want anybody to feel that. So that's why I'm always so nice.
Yeah. It's hard when you have a condition to be bullied for that condition, especially when people are unaware of what that sounds like or feels like or have any idea. And I feel today, so many conditions are invisible. We don't see them.
Yeah, I know.
And so you could meet someone and have no idea what they're going through. And even when it was visible, people were making fun of it. What to speak of when you can't see it. The second part of my question was, you obviously are on this path to think about becoming a doctor. In our world, that's considered the greatest achievement of our community. So when you quit to do what you do today, how do your parents look at that? Because I feel like there'll be a lot of people watching who want to make a career pivot, or they want to drop out of school to follow gaming, or they want to be a creator. How did you get through that in your own head of okay, I could go off and become a doctor, I've wanted to do this, versus this is this new thing like Vine and YouTube and everything else that came after that. How did you make that decision?
How the whole path came about was I also played volleyball in college. So I would have 6 a.m. practice, and then I'd go to labs, and then I'd have the game, then I'd go back to culture and passage by embryonic stem cells. I had no college experience. My hair was falling out. I was so stressed, just overworked. And then I really wanted a year off. So I took the year off, and I just found so much joy in hanging out with all of my friends that are comedians, and we laugh all the time, and we just shoot funny things. We make other people laugh. And I kept doing it. And then I found out that you could get revenue from it. And then it just kept coming, and to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to save up for medical school. And then I did. And I still had a lot more of the year left. And I just was like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to take another year off. And then after that year, one more year off. And now they just gave up. And now here I am.
So 1 year at a time.
1 year at a time. Yeah. But I'm very lucky. My mom is very open. She's very open-minded. She didn't have a problem with it as long as I was happy. And my dad's more detached. And he's kind of just like, oh, I just still don't even know what my daughter does. So those are my parents. But I want to know about your guys' upbringing. Were your parents hard on you, or what was your relationship like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like telling your parents that you want to be a monk for some time. So I'm really curious to know Jay's answer, although I've read your book, so I got a little cheat sheet. It's interesting with a lot of the guests that we interview, a lot of people seem to say that their parents were very supportive, and I actually had the opposite story in a lot of ways. Not, everyone shows love differently is what I've come to realize. And it's not like my parents obviously love me so much, but they're also the product of their own upbringing. They grew up in India. Things are a lot more conservative, a lot more closed-minded. My dad, he never had like a lot of formal education. He grew up like in a smaller town. And he was more of the athlete and always he got into politics and cared about business and stuff like that. So his philosophy was like, as long as you're working hard at something, that's all that matters. And he wanted me to be successful. But my mom, she valued education more. So for her dream was for me to go to Stanford or to at least get like some sort of PhD or master's degree. To her, she equated that to success. Like there was a point where I dropped out of, I went to UC Davis and I dropped out for a short period of time to start a business because I always cared about the entrepreneurial route. And my parents didn't find out that I dropped out because I was paying my own tuition until they read it in a college newspaper that there was this college dropout that started this successful company and was crushing it. And they're like, it doesn't matter. What they said to me was that if you don't finish your college degree, no one will ever marry you. That's what they said.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to go back. So I finished my college degree.
And then Laura married you.
Now you're married.
And I'm sure she doesn't care about whether I have a degree or not. But so, yeah, it was a lot of pressure, but I was always just somebody that kind of did what I felt. I was a little bit of the black sheep of the family. And when I did mess up, it wasn't that like nice, comforting love that you'd hope for. That's like, hey, it's okay. At least you tried. At least you gave it your best. It was just more so like, see what you made of your life now. Like, do you see if you followed our advice, you wouldn't be hurting like this right now. And now it's not too late to conform and do exactly what we want you to do kind of a thing. So it was much more the tougher love, but I never stopped just trying to pave my own path and trying to make it. I had lots of different businesses. A lot of that didn't work out in the beginning. So it was a lot of like trying and failing until I ultimately found my calling. But it wasn't until more recently where, I got married, I had kids, I settled down, I have like, a successful business or multiple businesses, I have a house. Now my mom can come and say like, at me being 38 years old, she's like, okay, you're not doing bad for yourself.
Yes.
So it took a long time with that acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to know that like, if you're listening, like wherever family background you're coming from, whether you have supportive parents right out the gate and are showing you that love, or if you have tough love, there's different ways that you can make it and you can still succeed against all that.
I love that. And it's so true that there's value in every experience. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old when my parents started preparing me for the 11 plus exams. So 11 plus is when you get into high school in London.
Wow.
And my parents wanted me to get into a good school, and you have to take exams to get into these schools. And so I started prepping when I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Oh
so
my
I'd finish
gosh.
school, I'd come home, and then I'd have to work harder. And my parents would have all these books and stuff, and I'd do all these tests. And I just did it because you're a kid and you don't know any better. And then I got into the school that my parents wanted me to go to. And so that was great. They were very happy. And then I was doing okay, but I got into a really competitive school where most people were way smarter than I was. And so I was kind of like middle of the road or towards the end.
But you're younger than everybody else,
No,
right?
everyone's 11.
Oh,
Everyone's
okay,
11
okay,
years
okay.
old. And
Gotcha,
everyone's 11 years old when they
but you
start high
started
school.
early.
But yeah, what ends up happening is I'm working really hard, but at 14 years old, I just kind of get this sense in my head that I want to do what I love. Like I just start hearing that voice. I don't know where it comes from, but it just started to get stronger. It was like, you don't need to just do these things. Like you should do what you love. You should do what you care about. You should do what you believe in. And so at 14, I started standing up to my parents and I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this subject. I want to do this one. I'm not going to focus on this. I'm going to do this. And for them, they were just like, well, there's no career in what you want to do. So my favorite subjects were art and design, philosophy, and economics. And economics made them happy because at least that made some sense. But art and design and philosophy, they were just like, well, that stuff doesn't pay the bills. So why would you care about that? And I was like, well, I'm sure I can figure it out because I love these things. And I always had a bit of a business entrepreneurial mind, but I wasn't focused on that. So I kept pushing that with my parents. And eventually, obviously, I went and followed that path. But what I found was that my parents forcing me to be academic actually has paid off in my creative pursuits. And if my parents never forced me to be academic, maybe I wouldn't have been as organized, structured, and strategic with my creative pursuits as I have. So now when I look back, I'm still grateful to my parents for pushing me in that direction, although I know I needed to follow my own path.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone thinks it's an either or. And from what I'm hearing all of us say, it's like, it's not either or. It's like you have to still follow your own path, but like Dhar said, like your parents still care about you. They still love you. So anyway, I think that was it for me, really. It was,
wow,
you know,
as
just
a 14-year-old,
14 years old, just trying
guns.
to stand up to myself.
Wow.
And I feel like in life, we stop standing up for ourselves so early that by the time we become adults, no one listens to us, not even ourselves. And so I feel like we stop listening to our own inner voice at 14, and then you rediscover it at like 32.
Yeah.
And you're like, where has this voice been?
Right.
So I think
It
that's what it
shuts
was
off.
for me. But we were talking about relationships a lot, and I'm intrigued because this is what I hear from all my girlfriends and friends in LA and women that I know is that dating in LA is hard.
Oof. Yeah.
Like that's what I hear. I want to
Yes.
know because I haven't dated for a long time. We've never. You dated in LA for a bit? No,
I did.
You didn't. I
just
never
for a
dated in
small
LA.
stint, like
I
3
never
months.
dated in LA. Is dating in LA hard? Why
Oh,
is it
man.
hard? Is it really different from anywhere else? Like,
I think LA's huge, but the dating scene, it seems just so small. And I've never had any success in it. I always tend to date people that live out of state. That's always been more successful for me, to be honest.
how does that work? Dating someone long distance?
I actually really love it. I do. I like the time apart. It gives you time to miss each other, and also you could get so much more work done. And then when you see them, then it's all them. But it requires a lot of communication and their willingness to accept the communication and also your love languages and all of that stuff. So it can get really tough, but there's definitely some pros to it, I think.
I mean, I see in a lot of your skits, you've got this trend that you do where you play the third wheel, right?
Always.
So is that true in real life? Or?
Yes,
Or is that just a
always.
skit?
Well, sometimes I would play along even though I had a boyfriend, and try to trick everybody and keep it secret. But yeah, right now, yes, it's very true.
Are you that person crying at weddings, like when your friends get married?
Oh, yes. Or my friend just got engaged yesterday, sobbing. I'm just a very emotional person, and I just love so much.
Yeah. I love too.
Yeah. Oh, and you guys are both married.
Both married.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Was there a specific moment where you knew this is the one?
Men have like a financial clock and women have more of a biological clock, right? So for me, it was always about trying to be at the right place in my life. But what I've come to find is that when you're at your lowest moments, that's when the most important people in your life come into it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at all the closest people that you have in your life right now, a lot of them probably either came in or stood next to you during those low moments. And that's when my wife came into my life.
Really?
I was at the lowest possible low.
Wow.
And instead of, trying to be with someone who was already successful, she actually helped build me up to become successful, and was patient and stood by my side and helping me become the guy that I needed to be.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, so because she was there, I just knew that she was the one. Because if you have everything and then you lose it all, you don't know if someone who came into your life at your high will be there to stand that storm with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have someone that's there with you when you don't have anything, you know that they're going to be there for you during those highs and lows.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it really worked out between us. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so special. Yeah, Laura's wonderful. His wife's amazing.
Yeah.
That reminded me of this quote. I don't know who said it. I feel like I've seen it under Conor McGregor's name. I've seen it under Obama's name and someone else's name.
Yeah.
But it's really powerful. And I don't think it's as much about the gender to me. It's just more about the principle. The quote is said in genders, but I don't think that matters anymore today. But it said that a woman's loyalty is tested when her man has nothing, and a man's loyalty is tested when he has everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made me think. And I don't think it matters what gender you are. I think it just makes sense in general. And I think for me, it's the same with my wife. I met my wife when I was in debt. I didn't have a job and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so my wife came into my life again when I had absolutely nothing to offer apart from myself. And she betted on that guy. And I honestly believe that anything that's happened in the last 10 years is because she's been there for me and with me. I remember the day we were 4 months away from being broke and we had enough money to pay for rent and groceries. And I came and told her that. And she was like, I trust you. I believe in you. That's all she had to say. And then the next day she wanted to go spend loads of money at Whole Foods, which wasn't helpful. But at least in that moment,
make me cry.
yeah, at least in that moment, I felt that. And so with my wife too, I've always felt that she's been with me through all the ups and downs. So I don't ever have to doubt the reason she's with me or why we're together or if she still loves me. Because if she could love me when externally I didn't have anything to offer, that's great. But I wonder how that is for you. You're a successful business person. You're powerful, you're doing really well for yourself. And I find a lot of men can get intimidated by a high-performing woman, even if they don't say that. Yeah. Have you experienced that? What does that feel like to be someone who's, you can take care of yourself. You don't need a man to take care of you.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
This is so funny because I just had this conversation with Adam yesterday.
Oh, no
actually.
way.
Yeah, we were both talking about dating and if the girl pays, the guy pays, and how it is for me. And yes, I have actually dealt with that. And it's interesting because I feel like with women that are seen a lot, there's a lot of, or some men will look at that girl and be like, oh, wow, I'd love to, date her or hang out with her, whatever it is. And then once the relationship forms, and then they find that, they're coming over to my house or I'm providing. And I have no problem with that. I love it. I love feeding people, taking care of everyone. But the ego comes out. And some men, I'm not saying every man is like that, but you could definitely sense it. And then it's almost like they feel less than what they felt before me because they feel like I have more. And then they, start kind of trying to break you down to kind of get even with what they're feeling. And it's tough. It's tough. It's a rough one.
Yeah, that sounds so tough. I mean,
and I never knew growing up, my parents were always like, be the most independent you can be. Never rely on a man financially or with anything. But I didn't know this came with it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough. I hear that from all my closest girlfriends who are, successful business people doing really well for themselves. And they find it so hard to date because they're just men's egos just get in the way.
And I mean, you also have the added layer of fame.
Yeah.
So do you feel like certain people try to come into your life just because of the fame that you have and the amount of followers? And things?
Now I can really smell them out really quick too.
How do you know?
I know because they start talking about like, oh, do you know so and so? Oh, we should like. Can you like plug my my phone case, like whatever?
Oh, they're not even.
And they're not. Yeah, a lot of them don't
it.
even hide it. But then there's some subtle cues of like, hey, can I come by your shoot and meet your cool friends or whatever it is? It's like, I don't know. It's also a vibe because somebody could be extremely genuine and just really want to know, and I could sense that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just gets harder and harder the more you climb, and also I think it's harder when, you know, you're ambitious. Like, I feel like you're highly ambitious. You wouldn't be here without it. You're highly driven. And a lot of people, again, get intimidated by that. So it's not even just the fame, the success, the money, the providing, but it's also the ambition and drive. What's kept you hungry? Like, what keeps you going now?
Ask you guys this.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Oh, I think it's probably always been, I think it's instilled in me since I was younger. Like I said, my dad was a little bit more detached and I would get his attention if I really accomplished something, whether it was in academics or sports or anything like that. And, you know, I would get grounded if I didn't get the right grade and things like that. And so ever since then, I've just been an absolute workhorse. And even in my college career, I didn't even have a personal life. So I've even battled that, even taking time off, and I didn't know the importance of that. And I really struggled with that through, you know, like the pandemic and stuff like that. But it's really necessary, and I feel like finally I've found a balance between work and taking time off and doing things that actually will help fuel me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, to have as long of a career as you had on social media,
Totally.
I mean, how do you overcome the tough times when you're not feeling as creative, when you're feeling burnt out, when social algorithms change and, you know, your engagement can go from, for you, I mean, 1 million likes to maybe 500,000 is not a lot for you. I don't know. How do you weather those storms and stay like creative and driven?
I think I've been doing this for 7 years now.
Wow.
I've been through the creative blocks. The creative blocks are probably the most tough for me. And I've gone months without having an idea. And then there'll be one day where I write down 50. And then I've kind of learned myself and my creative process and what makes me tick, whether it's like listening to a movie soundtrack or going to sleep, but not sleep yet. I close my eyes and I get in that kind of subconscious state. And then I think of all my ideas, then I write it in my notes.
Nice.
Things like that. But I want to know what drives you guys?
Someone messaged me the other day and they were like, so Jay, what's your primary, I don't talk to them often. They're not someone that I would say knows me very deeply, but they were like, Jay, what's your primary goal? Is it to build companies or make content? I sat there for a second and it was just a message. So I replied immediately. I was like, my primary goal is to help people find their potential and live their purpose. Whether I build a company or build content, that's just vehicles towards that. And so I feel like, and we've talked about this a lot, I feel like from the beginning, my goal has been, how do I build the full journey for someone to go from pain and suffering and feeling confused and lost to discovering their unique potential and then helping them make a purpose in the world and see their gifts change people's lives. And so for me, it's like, if I can't build that whole journey for someone, then I haven't done my job yet.
Yeah.
And so then when you look at the views and people say, but you've had this many views, or you've had this many followers, or you get this many downloads, or whatever it may be, it's like, yeah, but that isn't the journey. Like I'm addicted to giving people the journey. This is just the beginning of that journey. So my drive just comes from,
Helping
I feel like there are a lot of people who are still confused, lost, stuck. It's why we started this podcast together, because we were just like, there's so many people who would look at you and be like, I want to be like Hannah, or maybe they aren't open about it and they feel envy and they don't say that, but that's what they feel inside. But until they learn your story and they learn the pivots, the challenges, the sacrifices, then they can't do that. So I think that was even why we both felt inspired to start this show, because like, people need to know your story.
Yeah. I love that. That's a beautiful, beautiful answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I wish mine was as virtuous as Jay's. It's definitely not. For me, I mean, so there's the younger Dhar, and then there's Dhar today, right? And younger Dhar was definitely driven by trying to prove people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where it first came from was, I remember I was dating this girl in college, and we were kind of all in the same friend circle.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like 5 or 6 girls, like 5 or 6 guys. And when her and I started going through problems, then naturally everyone takes a side, right? And then I started becoming excluded from that friend circle. And I don't know why I've always equated success to getting revenge. So in my mind,
Revenge buddy.
Yeah,
Revenge
we're 19, 20 years old. And so in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna become so successful. In my mind, I was like, you create these fantasy situations in your head. And I was like, I'm going to pull up in my Lamborghini, and it's going to be raining outside, and she's going to be at the bus stop, and I'm going to drive up, and water is going to splash, and it's going to hit her.
Did you bring the Lamborghini?
And she's just going to regret like having to wait for the bus while I'm in the Lamborghini, you know? So 2 years later, I bought my Lamborghini.
Yes. Did you do the rain scene?
So the rain scene didn't happen, but the bus scene happened. Like, believe it or not.
Really?
And so I was 21 years old when I bought my first Lamborghini. So I started I started in business very early on, and it was simply a means to try to prove people wrong by being as successful as I possibly could. And then why did I graduate from college? To try to prove to my mom that like I could find someone that would marry me and that I could do it because they said that I couldn't. And then I obsessed about, I would always be compared to my cousins, and I would know their salaries, and I would like all these things were told to me. So I would obsess about trying to hit like certain numbers. And it's funny how you can care so much about something, and then you achieve it and you forgot you were even trying to get there.
Yeah.
That was a lot of my journey. Now, at my age, like just having 2 kids, as soon as you have kids, I know I always talk about this, at least we have one dad like in all these shows, but it's all, you just think about like, how can you provide, like, I know this sounds cliche, but it's how can you provide the very best future for your kids? And of course, money doesn't bring happiness, right? But it does make things a lot easier. And just like their safety, their comfort, their well-being, not having to stress, that's what really drives me now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know you both manifest, right? Can you guys take me through like what it looks like for you? Where do you do it? What time do you start? For how long?
All right, Hannah.
Yeah, I'll
interview
start with
Hannah.
This is like what I really wanted to know this.
Yeah. So my manifestation, right, was like I would have vivid visualizations as to what my life would look like when I've quote unquote made it. And of course, everyone has a dream of like the house, the cars, the spouse, like having unlimited money, having followers, having all these things. 7 years ago, I was totally broke, and I was sharing a studio apartment that was 400 square feet with a roommate, where we had to take turns between who would sleep on the couch and the floor because there wasn't enough room for a bed. But the only thing that would get me going was staring at Zillow and looking at houses
I would do the same thing.
I could not afford. I'd be looking at, $10 million houses with $10 in my bank, and just imagining these days as to when I would get there one day. And the craziest thing is I would bookmark houses that I just fell in love with. Even though I didn't even know where these neighborhoods were, I never went in them. And then years later, when I finally did find success and I was house shopping every single night, like I would go on Zillow, look at houses. The very first day that we moved into our quote unquote dream house, I went to bed that same night on Zillow, thinking I needed to look at houses, not even realizing that I had gotten to the place in my life where we had bought the house. And I went on my bookmarks just to see the houses that I had saved previously. And turns out there was a house in the exact same neighborhood that I was trying to live in, and I was now there.
No. No way.
So I had been obsessing about living in that neighborhood for 7 years without even realizing that I had gotten there.
Oh my god!
So it was like this daily practice of obsession for me.
Whoa.
I love that. That's brilliant, man. I love that story every time you tell it because it's so true. Like when you build up a habit like that, even when you get the goal, you're now looking at the next. And so I love that. I think for me, there's 3 steps to manifesting. The first step is visioning bigger than the goal. So I think often we obsess over the exact thing we want. And I actually think that sets us up for failure because sometimes it comes in a different way. It looks slightly different. And therefore, when you go bigger, you're likely to get something that feels more connected with what you really, truly want. So often I feel we manifest too small. So that's step 1. Step 2 is visualize the process. So a lot of people in manifestation say, visualize what it feels like to have that thing, to be in that thing. And I'm like, no, visualize waking up early. Visualize the hours you have to put in the gym to get there. Visualize staying up all night because you had to edit videos and content. Like visualize the hardship and the process, because if you can do that in your head, in reality, it's going to be easy. So if you get through those challenges, visualize the actual challenges, the sacrifices, the pains. And then the third thing is be open to the fact that you'll get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagine it. So be open to the fact that the pathway to this vision and this goal is going to look so different from the one you made up in your head. And I think most of us are so busy trying to find the path we made in our head. And we're like, no, this can't be right because it doesn't look like how it looked in my head.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we go wrong. I think the best stuff that's happened in my life has actually been a surprise. If I look at like the best things that have happened, they happened in a much better way than I visualized and manifested, because that's what makes them manifestation. That's what makes them special.
Yeah.
If it happened exactly how I planned it,
right?
Even with yours,
That
it's like
makes
it didn't
sense.
happen exactly how you planned it.
Yeah.
And you ended up in this beautiful home that, we've had so many wonderful memories in already. But it's like that didn't come from you going, that's exactly it. It's like it came from you having this greater vision for it. So
if you can repeat all 3 of those steps, I'm gonna take notes this time. So.
I was already thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna save this clip and just replay it in my phone.
No, I'm glad you asked that.
Do you have a specific time of day that you do it?
I would say that I probably do it at least 3 times a day.
Oh, wow.
So I would say like in the morning, at night, and then throughout the day, I try and create a habit where it becomes a focus and an obsession rather than just keeping it one time. So for me, 2 to 3 times a day, because I also think that the more you visualize it, the more clarity you get, the more insight you get. You realize, oh, maybe I should think about this a bit differently. I think it needs to be edited more often because it actually brings you closer to the idea. And I think people forget that everything that exists in reality once existed in someone's head. But it had to be repeated in their head. And so I think repetition is a big part of manifestation. So 2 to 3 times a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And you are so awesome. Honestly, I've been wanting to meet you for such a long time. I know Dhar
likewise.
you guys have met, but I think we've been wanting to spend this quality time. But honestly, we could talk to you for hours. It's been so fun getting to know you. We hope that this is not your only time on the show.
Yes. Bring me back. I love talking to you guys. You guys are the best.
And we want you to know we're wishing you all the best with everything you're manifesting. We really hope that all of it, career, love, life, kids, everything that you're looking forward to happens in that way.
We're putting it out into the universe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we end every show with a rapid fire, quick fire round. So
Okay.
if you're ready, we'll dive into that.
Yes, I'm ready.
You get abducted by aliens and only have one shot at making them laugh. What are you doing?
Oh, maybe I could impersonate them.
Wow, that was
good.
really good. That was more impressive and scary than funny, but I'll take that.
Maybe I'll just scare them though.
Rank the best sparkling waters in the game right now.
La Croix Pamplemousse, number 1. I actually looked for their merch. I'm so obsessed with it. Nothing like cracking open a cold one of La Croix Pamplemousse. Pellegrino, Perrier, and then we'll go into the flavored one. Oh wait, sorry. Oh my gosh. Mountain Valley. The Mountain Valley sparkling water is probably number 1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Forgot about that.
Wow.
Spring
the
water.
order changed.
It's actually good for you. It has minerals in it.
We do Mountain Valley
gotta
at home,
up
but
our
I haven't had the
game.
sparkling yet. We have the still one.
Yeah, and they have flavors too, like lemon and lime. Scrumptious.
If you could collab with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Probably Jim Carrey.
I love that. Okay, choose a superpower.
A superpower, maybe to read minds.
That's a good one, actually. Everyone always goes for like flying or something. That's
That's
actually
because
useful.
I always try to observe everybody, and I really want to know the truth all the time. Is that a La Croix pamplemousse? It is.
Just
Wow.
Look at that.
Good eye. Good eye.
Who brought that?
I can't believe that's just randomly
know.
sitting there. I don't know who that is.
If you followed a
You
three-step
I
manifest-
process.
manifested it. That's what it is. Yeah.
All right.
Who would be the dream person for you to go on a date with?
All right. I know the answer, but it's not
Okay.
for me.
Okay.
It's for my assistant, Ian. My assistant really loves Drake. So I would go on a date with Drake just to tell him all about it.
Only for that reason, not for any other
Yeah.
purpose.
You wouldn't
just for that
you wouldn't
reason.
take him on the date.
Oh yeah, I would take.
You
Yeah, I
wouldn't
would
set
take
Drake,
Ian. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Fair enough.
I love that. What are you most embarrassed about?
Probably I actually have OCD. I do rituals, so I'm really embarrassed about that in front of certain people, and I like try to hide it.
We know that proposal videos make you cry. What would be the ideal proposal?
The ideal proposal, it would have to be when I'm obviously not expecting it, but also with somebody where I don't really think we're there yet, but then he goes out on the limb. I think I definitely want. This sounds materialistic, but I love the memories. I definitely want cameras, pictures, my friends there, my family there. Maybe my cat's involved somehow would be cool.
I love it.
Cool.
That's it. Amazing. Well done, Hannah.
Yeah,
That was
well
dope.
done, you
Hannah,
guys.
Thank you.